What makes us do things? What makes you do things, and what motivates us? I think that is the role of our emotions. I think one could say that our emotions works like an inner compass needle. It's either to make us do things or to avoid things. What are those emotions? Well, they could be love, hate, fear, hope. Fear is one of the strongest ones. It could also be desire. It could be a lot of different things. So, when it comes to entrepreneurs, a lot of different things motivates them as well as all our others. We all get different motivations because of these feelings, either to avoid something or to achieve something. When it comes to what's so special about entrepreneurs, it seems like they live their lives by trying to achieve instead of trying to avoid. I was asked about 10 years ago could one distinguish an entrepreneur from an intrapreneur or from other people? Could there be different archetypes, or is she or he is typical entrepreneur or he is a typical entrepreneur? No, I think there are different kinds of entrepreneurs. So I was asked could one distinguish one archetype from another, and it seemed to be like there were 5 archetypes already. And I happened to do this survey. I happened to found the 6th one that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. So, what makes entrepreneurs so special? Let's have a look. The starter, this is the kind of person who drives on the creativity by itself. These people are usually think on their head, think on their feet. They are fast-talking, intuitive. But we also did a survey, as I was mentioned earlier, that we looked at the social factors. And these groups stood out because a lot of people think that this is the raw model of the archetype of an entrepreneur. Yes, but they stood out because we asked them how many of these were still running a company after 5 years. And it seems like this group that stood out, they had 50% of them who were still running their own companies after 5 years. They had started a company with a partner. Why is this? Because they have to complement themselves with people who can make the trains run on time, because they are always so keen to move on to something else, so they have problems with maintain the main business. The professionals, this is the opposite of the starter. They are the ones who like to start a fast-growing company and stay with it through all the stages. That means to start a company, to make it profitable, and maybe at the very end to go public. They are analytical, they are long-term driven, and in our survey they stood out because we did ask for social factors about birth order, educational background, etc., etc. And if I'm right, I think it was 14% of these that we asked that had either a master or a PhD before they started the company. Serial entrepreneurs, that's why they are a little bit like they want to have the cake and they want to eat it too. If you take a starter and you take a profession, then you blend it, then you will have a serial entrepreneur. They usually stay with their business within 5, maximum 10 years, and then they would like to move on. They are flexible and they are very strong on intuition. Some of them think that they are thinkers like the professionals, or like they're feelers like the starters. This type of archetype could be both. So they're flexible. Sometimes they go with their intuition, sometimes with the analytical side. And they stood out. Let me see if I'm wrong here. They stood out in a quite funny way. Over 50% of them were firstborn. They were firstborn children. Innovators. They are the ones who start company because of they're frustrated within the companies that they are today. So they think that the top of the pops for freedom is to start their own business. They usually team up with 3 or 4 other people that are the same as themselves. They stood out in two quite funny ways. When it comes to the birth order, they were almost like the firstborn, middle child, and last or younger child. They're almost like 33.3, 33.2, and the last one was like 29 or something. So the birth order here didn't really seem to matter. They also stood out because they are the ones with the most employees. So when we asked how many employees do they have after 5 years, they were among the highest group. They usually have between 10 and 49. Lifestyle. They usually start business to keep up a good life. They would like to travel. They would like to make money. They would like to have not so many employees, because turning big means problems for them. They start a business with a few people, and they are, if you look at the 3 different ways that one could usually run a business, by being innovative, efficient, or customer-driven, this type usually is customer-driven, very cell-driven. They stood out because most of these lifestyle entrepreneurs, they were only child. So 11% of them, when you look at the birth order, they were so-called only children. Only children. Okay, next, work style. This is the kind of people that work with their interest. They don't work as, they are. They don't work as teachers, they are teachers. They work with their interests. They don't hire so many people. They usually stay within 5 years. We asked them, okay, how many employees do you have? They were in the lowest, between 1 and 4 employees. They also stood out when it comes to higher education. When we asked for either PhD or master, the answer here was 0. 0% had higher education. Because what's the purpose of higher education if you work within your own interests? Do they have something in common, entrepreneurs? Yes, they have something in common. They have curiosity. Curiosity is something they all have in common. Is there anything else? Well, I think there's a process. There's a thinking process. Because a lot of people ask me, how do one get ideas? There are 2 major roads when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's either, as we saw in the movie, necessity or observation. I'm here going to talk about observation, not about necessity. First of all, one has to be conscious. You have to be aware. And we also have to be present. What bothers me today is that I see a lot of people that are always on the run from something to something. We're seldom here. And people say we have a lot of problems with, we don't find ideas, but we're still looking. Yeah, the reason why that is because you look to find the problems, but you don't find the problems if you don't start observing things. And do that, you have to be present. You have to be present here. Otherwise, you cannot see the problems, because we look with our eyes, but we see with our brain. Then you can move on to see what are the problems today. And when you find the problems, don't go for solutions. Go for the need. Because if there's a need, people are willing to pay you for your solution. Okay, what is entrepreneurship? Well, I think it is like this. It's a physical manifestation of creativity. What makes you do things. Thank you.